That was a banger. What do you guys think? Are you happy with what you just saw, that commercial that I just shot? I am, okay, what's the word? I don't even really know what I could say to describe how proud I am of that video. I have seen so many YouTube creators creating videos like this, and this was really my first attempt at creating a video like this for a commercial product. As many of you know, I've worked with Boscabel in the past. I did a review on the original Bel-Loc bipod. There's a card that's gonna pop up right here. Definitely check out that review. It's gonna give you a little bit of a foundation of where we're at with the new bipod, but I wanted to get into a little bit of a backstory with Boscabel. So I've worked with them in the past. Sean over there approached me and said he wanted me to create a punchy video, a 60-second video that they would use for advertising and for their distributors in the United States. And so they ended up paying me to create that commercial video. So that was a commercial edit that I did for money as a service for another company. I wanted to bring that full disclosure, full circle. Now this review that I'm talking about right now has no payment. There's no guarantee that I was gonna do a review. They didn't pay me specifically to do this review. So I'm doing this as unbiased as possible. Now, they are my friends. I do like them a lot. I think they're putting a really awesome product out on the market. And we all have personal biases, but I just wanna put this all out on the table so it's all clear, it's all full of clarity that they're not paying me to say good things about this bipod. And there's definitely a couple things that I would change about it going forward with the next revision, but I'm gonna give you my honest input on this bipod and why I think that it is epic. So without further ado, let's take the bipod off of my AR-15, which is IWI's Zion 15. We're gonna take it off, dive right into this thing, and go through all the specs. The Boscabel Bel-Loc 19 bipod is a new revision of their older bipod, and I do have the old one here as well. And there are quite a few differences just looking at them on the surface. They did take a lot of feedback over the last year and a half, and that is ultimately what they use to drive forward with the new Bel-Loc 19 bipod. And when I unboxed this thing, I was very, very pleased with what I saw. The differences were immediately clear to me. And now that's because I have the older bipod. If you have never touched the older Boscabel bipod, you may not be able to see the differences right away. Now there's a couple different ways that you can purchase this bipod. You can purchase it as pretty much a standalone unit and not get any of the extra springs or the extra feet, or you can buy it in the complete kit, which is more expensive, but it comes in a box like this. Now, as you saw in my little punchy commercial edit, there's a lot of different versatility and value in this complete package. So depending on your budget, it may make sense to actually buy the complete kit. But before I go into the contents anymore, I want to look at a couple of the differences between the original Bel-Loc bipod and Boscabel's new bipod. The first thing I'm going to talk about right here is the original Bel-Loc bipod. And like I said, I did a review on this product. Definitely check it out. I went in depth with this. I shot a bunch of different scenarios with it. The biggest thing that I didn't like about this bipod was the fact that there's a lot of wiggle in the legs. It really just did not feel like a completely refined bipod. It just felt like there was a little bit more that could be had with the original Bel-Loc bipod. I really liked the fact the feet were spring-loaded, and the new bipod retains that as well. I really, really liked that they had infinite adjustment on the legs. So you have a couple inches of travel, but in that travel, you can just turn their Bel-Loc feature and it's gonna lock onto that titanium inner leg, and it's gonna allow you literally unlimited amounts of adjustability for your bipod. So that means regardless of the terrain, regardless of where you're shooting, you're gonna always have the bipod that can react to that different terrain. One of the things that the original bipod did not have was a tilt feature, or what I believe they call their cant feature. So it's fixed. It is what it is. I mean, if you needed to tilt your rifle to the left or right, you would have to achieve that by simply adjusting one of the legs to a different height than the other one. And that could be time consuming. And I didn't really like that about the original bipod. So really, those were the two negatives that I had of the original bipod. And I just felt like if they refined those couple traits, people would be more than willing to pay the price tag of this bipod, even in its complete kit configuration. There's a lot of value packed into this bipod, even in its original form. But as we all know, as companies create products and they get feedback from users, they're gonna make revisions. It's just what happens in the lifespan of a product. So let's set this thing off to the side over here, and then we are gonna dive into the new Bel-Loc 19. One of the first things that I noticed on the Bel-Loc 19 was the little adjuster on the back, which this allows the legs to have a little bit of give as you're compressing the springs. They need to be able to move slightly out when you push down. So that little adjuster there allows you to do that. It's got this aggressive spike look. Hopefully you guys can see that at the different camera views. It had the same Picatinny attachment point on the top. I noticed that right away. One of the main features I picked up on right away is the fact that the legs now can go at a 45-degree angle. So now you're not just limited to a 90-degree angle. So if you want that low position, and maybe a 90-degree angle on the leg would be too high even in its fully collapsed form, this gives you the option to mount it like this and be able to use it effectively. So I thought that was an insanely awesome touch to this bipod. And to adjust the leg degree between the two positions, you just simply pull down on this little tab and put it into its position. One thing that it's going to be hard for me to show on video is the fact that instead of having just a little square cutout on the body of the bipod, there's a circle, which is a cylinder that's machined into the body, and then the legs have what I'm going to call a cylinder or a drum, and that's what's snapping into place. Now there's very, very little leg movement, so they really took that feedback and they pretty much completely eliminated it for this bipod. One of the other features that was immediately noticeable was this lever up front here. So if you loosen that lever, you'll notice that you have several degrees of cant for your rifle. And that is super, 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 super important to me, because you're not always going to have a perfectly level platform to work off of when you're shooting. Even if you're just zeroing your rifle, having that little bit of cant is so, so important to me. It uses the same clamp and clasp that they have used in the previous bipod. So to open it up and clamp it on a Picatinny section, you simply push down on this tab and open it up. It's as simple as lining it up and clamping it down. And there is a screw on the back side here that you can use to adjust the tension on your Picatinny rail section. One of the other features that they added to this bipod was the fact that they added a position on the locking feature that allows you to quickly deploy the legs if need be. So you can simply drop them down on your rifle, give them a good tap, and then your rifle is going to be floating. And then it's super easy to stow them away as well. So that was another feature that I noticed was added to this bipod. The bipod is still made in Australia. It is still imported into the United States, and it does feature the same quality finish, the same titanium inner legs. And if you buy the kit, you do get all of the feet and the springs that are featured with this bipod that make this bipod really what it is. So overall, the additions that they made to this bipod are tremendous. I think that they made a lot of good moves. Now that I talked about the outside of this bipod and what's featured in the actual bipod, let's talk about what you would get in the complete case. So for that, we're going to go to the upper view. Let's make it happen. Okay, so when you're looking at the case and when you open it up, you're going to notice a lot of pine needles, apparently. I had this out at Old 82, so ignore the pine needles. Sorry about that, guys. Probably should have opened up the case before shooting a video. Good job, Jared. So when you open up the box, you're gonna notice that there's a cubby hole for the bipod. Mine came with the rubber feet attached to it. There's a bunch of springs in here, and we'll kind of dive into what these springs are used for and why you might want to use these springs. And then there's a couple different feet that you could use on this bipod. And some people might be thinking that, you know, I don't really need to use a ton of different feet. I feel like the rubber feet are fine, and that might be the case. That might be you. Maybe it is just worth getting just the bipod. But what I will say is that these feet come in handy for different situations. I've found that I really like these 3 feet. They're titanium feet, very tough, very spiky and sharp, and they really dig into wooden tables. They dig into ground, loose dirt. So depending on the terrain, I'll run the 3 feet. The magnetic ones are awesome because I can throw them on my car hood. Just obviously make sure there's nothing sharp that's going to scratch the paint. So I did warn you. Don't tell me I didn't warn you. But these work on anything magnetic. That could be a toolbox, that could be a range box, maybe where you keep your targets. If you need a quick way to keep your rifle secure on a metallic surface, this is a great way to do that as well. And then my favorite for photography and just getting people to I don't know, stare at the bipod and be like, holy crap, what is that? Are the titanium feet. And I really enjoy these feet because if you're running them in the 90-degree position, so if you have the bipod fully extended like this, it is able to dig in extremely well. And that's a titanium spike on there that was decently sharp, but I've rounded it off from use. So the feet are super easy to get on. I'm gonna try to snap these and show you. So you just pop it off, give it a good tug, and it does take some force. But then once you have the bipod in this configuration, if you want to put other feet on, it's really as simple as just pushing it in. So it snapped that one on, and then snap that one on. One thing that I'm gonna mention, because these legs are spring-loaded, make sure you have them fully extended before you try to put on spiky feet. That gives you an idea of how to install the feet. Doesn't take any tools. It is hard. I mean, you definitely got to get on them. So like I said, if you're putting on the spiky feet, definitely don't have your hands in front of them while they're collapsed like this, because if you accidentally spin this little bell feature here that locks them, you could actually get one jumping out pretty fast and into your hand. Just be careful when you're doing that. So that brings us up to the last major feature that I'm going to say of the Bel-Loc bipod is the fact that, as you can tell, these legs are spring-loaded. There's no notches or anything. It's just a spring, an interior titanium shaft, and then their Bel-Loc feature. So what that's going to allow you to do is literally your rifle is going to feel like it's floating. If you're using the correct springs, your rifle can be adjusted without you actually having to lift the bipod off the ground. And that's a main selling point that they are talking about when they're discussing their bipod or advertising about their bipod. And as you can hopefully see, the springs have a ton of different colors, and I believe the black one is the heaviest, but definitely check out their website. They have all the information on the springs and the different tension, and they even give you a chart where they tell you if your rifle weighs this much, this is the spring we would recommend. And I would say to spend some time with different rifles and different springs and finding out which spring allows your rifle to float and use the bipod to its fullest potential. So now that I brought up the springs and the fact that you can change out the springs, I thought it was worthwhile to just kind of point out how that would actually happen. And it's honestly a super, super easy thing to do. So right behind the foot where you snap it onto that machined ball, there's a little pin, and it's right here in the back. And all you have to do is put this bipod in a clamp or hold it or have a buddy help you. You drive that little pin out, and then you can take the foot and the little ball off, and then the spring comes right out. Super easy, not very complicated. You don't need anything other than just a little punch and some kind of a mallet to drive out that pin. And then you can just experiment with the different springs and see what works best for your rifle setup. Using the bipod on the range, it performed exactly as I would expect, especially having experiences with the older version of the bipod. I kind of knew what to expect. I was just looking for those extra added features and then exploring how those features were going to help me out on the range. And it did everything that I thought it could do and more. This is a bipod that's doing things totally different than anything else on the market. And because of that, I think it's worthwhile to consider it and potentially add it to your lineup for your rifles. So at this point, I just thought it was worthwhile to talk about who is this bipod for. And at a retail price of $480 for the entire set, which that's pricing right now, that could change over time. But at the time of making this video, if you buy this entire kit, it's around $480 US plus shipping. So it's not a super inexpensive bipod. This is something you're investing a lot of money into. Now, one thing that I've noticed over the years is I see a lot of people thinking and assuming that if you have a bipod, it's for only precision shooting, and that if you don't do precision shooting, you don't really have any need for a bipod. But even if you're just somebody who runs an AR-15 and you like to have the best, most stable foundation for zeroing your rifle or changing optics, maybe you go hunting or any other kind of tactical shooting and training, a bipod does fill many roles. So I think that you should have at least one bipod in your lineup that you can easily switch back and forth between rifles. So if you're unsure how much you will use a bipod and you don't want to spend a ton of money, you may be better off getting a knockoff Harris or something like that. But if you are a person who knows that they're going to be using a bipod a ton and you want something that is high quality and made of high quality components, then this bipod is a very good solution on the market. and it offers features that many other bipods aren't even gonna touch. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Hopefully it maybe made you aware of Boscabel. It also was a major milestone for me in my personal journey because of that commercial that I showed you guys at the very beginning. I'm on a journey to really learn as much as I can about videography, and I'm trying to grow this YouTube page and influence people and show people the journey of an entrepreneur and just teach you what I've learned along this journey. And some of that's through reviews like this, and some of that's gonna be through other vlogs, but I do appreciate you guys sticking through these videos and then leaving me comments and feedback in the comments section. Guys, let me know what you think about Boscabel's new Bel-Loc 19 bipod. If you have any experience with this, definitely leave some information in the comments section. If you have any experience with the older version of this bipod, definitely let people know. The guys at Boscabel are awesome guys. They're friends of mine. Very grateful that they sent out one of these units to me to do a review on, and I really do believe that they went above and beyond and added all of the different things that people were asking for in their bipod. Guys, I appreciate you. Stay well, stay safe. I'll see you in the next video.